Racist cop points gun at black judge in court. What happens next shakes the entire trial. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, a familiar scent to Judge Marcus Ellison. At 52, he'd presided over countless cases in Atlanta's bustling Fulton County Courthouse, his sharp eyes and calm demeanor earning him respect across the judicial circuit. A black man raised in the heart of Georgia, Marcus had clawed his way through systemic barriers to sit at the bench, his robe a symbol of hard-won authority. Today's case was routine, a domestic dispute turned violent, but the air felt heavier than usual, charged with an undercurrent Marcus couldn't quite place. The defendant, a wiry man named Tommy Ray, sat hunched at the defense table, his eyes darting nervously. Marcus scanned the room. The prosecutor, a young woman with a stack of notes. The public defender, scribbling furiously. And the bailiff, Officer Daniel Holt, a broad-shouldered white man whose presence seemed to loom larger than his role required. Holt's reputation preceded him whispers of excessive force complaints, though none had stuck. Marcus had seen his type before, men who wore their badges like crowns, their authority a weapon. The trial proceeded smoothly until Tommy's testimony. His voice cracked as he recounted the night of the incident, claiming self-defense. The prosecutor pressed harder, her questions sharp and unrelenting. Tommy's story began to unravel, his words stumbling over inconsistencies. Marcus leaned forward, sensing the case's turning point. But then, a murmur rippled through the courtroom. Holt, standing near the defendant's table, muttered something under his brea, the slur, low but unmistakable, aimed at Tommy. Marcus's jaw tightened. He'd heard it, and so had half the room. "Officer Holt," Marcus said, his voice steady but edged with steel. "Repeat what you just said. Loudly, for the record." The room froze. Holt's face reddened, his hand twitching near his holster. "I didn't say nothing, Your Honor," he replied, his tone defiant, eyes narrowing. Marcus leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "I heard you, officer, and so did everyone else. You will not disrespect this court or its proceedings. Apologize now." Holt's lips curled into a sneer. "With all due respect, Judge," he spat, the title dripping with mockery. "Maybe you're hearing things. You people always do." The words hit like a slap. Gasps erupted from the gallery. The prosecutor's pen clattered to the floor. Marcus's heart pounded, but his face remained a mask of composure. He'd faced racism before, subtle jabs, coded language, but this was brazen, a direct challenge to his authority in his own courtroom. He opened his mouth to issue a contempt order, but before he could speak, Holt's hand shot to his holster. In a heartbeat, the officer drew his service weapon and aimed it at Marcus. Time seemed to stop. The courtroom exploded into chaos screams, chairs scraping, people diving for cover. Marcus stood tall behind the bench, his eyes locked on Holt's. The gun's barrel gleamed under the fluorescent lights, a cold promise of violence. "You think you're untouchable up there?" Holt shouted, his voice shaking with rage. "You don't belong here, and you know it." The words were a raw wound, slicing through Marcus's calm. He'd spent his life proving he belonged through law school, clerkships, years of scrutiny others never faced. But now, a gun in his face, he felt the weight of every slight, every slur, every door slammed shut because of his skin. Yet he refused to flinch. "Lower your weapon, officer," he said, his voice low, unwavering. "You're making a mistake you can't undo." The standoff stretched, seconds feeling like hours. The gallery was a blur of panic, but one figure caught Marcus's eye, a young woman, no older than 20, standing near the back. She wasn't cowering. Her phone was raised, recording everything, her hands steady despite the chaos. Her presence was a jolt, a reminder of the world watching. Then, a twist no one saw coming. The public defender, a quiet man named Paul Carter who'd barely spoken all morning, lunged forward. Paul, a white man in his 60s with a limp from an old injury, grabbed Holt's arm. "Dan, stop!" he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. "This isn't you. You're better than this." The room gasped again. Paul and Holt knew each other? Paul's face was flushed, his eyes pleading. "You're my brother-in-law, for God's sake," he said, softer now, almost a whisper. "Don't throw your life away over this." The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Holt's arm wavered, the gun dipping slightly. Marcus seized the moment. "Officer Holt," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "You have a choice. Put the gun down and we can end this without anyone getting hurt. You're not just threatening me, you're threatening everything this court stands for." Holt's eyes flickered, torn between rage and doubt. Paul kept talking, his voice steady now, recounting memories of family dinners, of Holt's daughter's laughter. The humanizing words chipped away at Holt's resolve. Slowly, agonizingly, he lowered the gun. The bailiff's deputy, who'd been inching closer, rushed in and disarmed him. Holt was cuffed, his face a mask of defeat as he was led away. The courtroom exhaled. Marcus called a recess, his hands trembling as he stepped down from the bench. The young woman with the phone approached him, her eyes fierce. "I got it all, Your Honor," she said, introducing herself as Aisha, a law student who'd been observing the trial. "This needs to be seen." That night, Aisha's video went viral. The image of a black judge staring down a gun in his own courtroom sparked outrage, protests, and debates across the nation. Holt faced charges: assault, misconduct, hate crimes. Paul, shaken but resolute, testified about Holt's history of unchecked anger, revealing a man torn between duty and prejudice. The trial became a lightning rod, exposing the fault lines of race and power in the justice system. Marcus returned to the bench the next week, the same courtroom now packed with reporters and supporters. He delivered a ruling on Tommy's case guilty, but with a sentence tempered by the context of poverty and desperation. Then he addressed the room, his voice heavy with emotion. "This court is a place of justice, not perfection. What happened here was a failure of humanity, but also a chance to rebuild. We must confront our biases, not with guns or anger, but with truth." The trial's aftermath lingered. Aisha's video inspired a grassroots movement, with young activists demanding reform. Marcus became an unwilling symbol, his story a testament to resilience. Holt, stripped of his badge, faced a long road to redemption, starting with a public apology brokered by Paul. It wasn't enough for some, but for Marcus it was a start. In the quiet of his chambers, Marcus reflected on the young woman's courage, Paul's unexpected loyalty, and the fragility of justice. He'd faced death and won, not with force, but with the weight of his integrity. The system wasn't perfect, but it was his to uphold, one case at a time. What do you think? Can justice prevail when prejudice pulls the trigger? Share your thoughts on where we draw the line between right, wrong, and redemption.